All right, welcome to the franchise time machine. My voice is a little better. My computer seems to be a little better. So we're going to try this out. Let's see. We're going to do this test to see which batting attributes are most important. We've done this before, so it's the first time we've done it though since like contact has kind of gone away. So we'll change our approach a little bit, but I think it'll still be fine. At some point, I'll also have to do a couple of drafts because they're going to fire during the stream. All right, so let's get the game up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use it completely averagely. And I should probably just wait till the raid comes in from Ezra, and then we'll just explain it once. But let's go ahead and start setting this up. And then I guess we could do a contest again. There are no packs to give away, but we do another contest. It is a new quick start. Oh, I forgot to name the game. Shoot. Let's just cancel. It's not going to let me cancel. I think we do episode numbers. We're going to maximize batting in this one, so we're going to call it Bat Max. Before I take over team, I forgot we're gonna put everyone on sabermetric. Wasted Height, thank you for the scritches for crouton. He is right here by my feet, getting his scritches. All right. We're going to change this for all the teams. I think I think sabermetric is probably the most realistic that people are That's probably close to what people are running. All right, so we'll save this. We'll save this as a quick start. Okay, so all the teams are now running sabermetric. So let's start naming these teams for the experiment. I find renaming the teams is the easiest way to start because then it reminds you of like what we're doing when we're editing each team. So BABIP, so we used to do it contact mostly through BABIP and then contact mostly through avoid K. But now with a shift away from avoid K, I think we do have to treat them separately. And the reason I treated them, the reason I focused on contact was because I was trying to close the gap between avoid K, BABIP, and power because power has, and well, we can talk about it during the stream, but the way the game is set up, power has like kind of a double dip benefit. Claydog goes moderate sabermetrics. Yeah, I think though directionally, right, most people are probably running more of a flavor of sabermetrics than anything else, whether it's moderate or otherwise. Not stealing a lot, not bunting a lot, and so. So I think we're definitely going to have. All right, hold on. We'll have void K, BABIP, power, and then I. Then we're missing gap. How should we do this? Going to 5 teams is not an option because we have an odd number of teams. It really messes up the schedule. When you have that small of a league and you have an odd number of teams, you end up having there's not enough days to finish the season. If we do this, we're missing gap. I mean, one way we could do it is we can put gap here and then put gap here. But then we're getting half as much data for avoid K and BABIP. I actually would feel better about doing gap here and then I here. I think we'll do a... This will be N void K M BABIP N power okay. So now okay, so all the hitters on this team get boosted to void K. And we could go to 550 or we could go to 600. I think we could go to 550. Gumo D Block, good morning to you. Good morning, good night, good evening to all of our raiders. Ezra Denny, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Here's what we're doing tonight. It's the first of our series of experiments using the completely average league that we spent a few streams setting up. This is a league where all the players are completely average and identical in as many ways as we could. Everyone's right-handed, bats right-handed, throws right-handed. Everyone is 6'2" and 210 pounds. Everyone has the same ratings for batting attributes and pitching attributes. So it's trying to make it as neutral as possible. Well, you know, people play OOTP from all around the world. I'm trying to acknowledge that. And also, I lost track of what I was saying. Ezra, as always, thank you for the raid, and also fantastic OOTP after talk with EVC and NYC2 today. That was great. A242 fellow, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. And yeah, always fun seeing two of my favorite streamers. I get to see them together is a rare event. That was really great. And I look forward to the outcome of the wager. Either thing will be entertaining. Ezra wearing a Dodgers hat or EVC wearing a Giants hat. No, I thought you were just pointing out that I lost track of what I was saying. I thought that was funny. Because halfway through, I'm like, yeah, good night makes it sound like I'm saying goodbye to everybody. Yeah, the fact that you have to buy one really makes it a great bet, I think. So just to give you a sense of what we're looking at, this is the neutral, completely average league. This is a team in the average league before we change anything. Right, so all the meaningful batting attributes are exactly 50. The defense is as close to 50 as we can get. And then if it's not their position, they don't get a rating in it. So their ratings are a little bit different. You said Truman Machine because the Truman Show where he says, good morning, good night. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a great reference, though. I didn't even notice that you put franchise Truman Machine. Now that I see it, that's extra funny. That's awesome. All right, so this team. So the reason I renamed the teams first. So I think the raid came in after I'd already done this. So I go to game settings, and this league only has 8 teams, 4 in each sub league, and they don't play against each other. So we turn off interleague play. So we basically get 2 experiments in one. The first thing I always do is I go in and I rename the teams to whatever we're testing. So this way, I already know, anytime I go to a team, I know what edit I have to make to it. All right, so this is the average league avoid K team. So we're going to change every batter's avoid K. So we go into editor and batting ratings and avoid K. We're going to change this to 550. You can go up to 600. 550 is the old limit. 600 is the new limit. I I used to go to the max. I think it's good to maybe just stay away from the 1 in 600, just in case there are some weird artifacts that happen at the very extremes. So we'll go to 550. So real nice quality of life thing. You used to have to enter these individually. Now if you type the overall, it'll actually put it in based on the splittiness. And just to avoid any potential issues, I am also going to change the potential number. There should not be any issues with that, but just to be safe. And so, yeah, we're just going to keep going through this. And I'm arrowing down through the roster to move across players. And the metric we're going to use for which attribute is the most important is the number of runs that a given team scores. We used to do win-loss, but there's so many, RNG things that can go into a win or a loss that there's still RNG involved in creating runs too, but there are fewer. And there are fewer kind of degrees of freedom between the variable we're changing with the void k and the dependent variable of runs scored versus wins. So it just seemed like a safer way to do it. So this team is done. Do you all want to do? We don't have packs to give away until next week. Do you want to do a guessing game form to compete again? I will put one together if you would like to play a guessing game. So let me know. I will let me know in chat, and I'll start editing the next team. It's another Avoid K team. Editor baddie ratings Avoid K. All right, the team is done. Who's next? Babip, Team Babip. Now, potentially, we're creating a problem here because by taking this to 550, we're adding 11 more points to BABIP than we are to Avoid K, because Avoid K is starting at 390. I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. If the two teams are very close, then it could be argued that, that the BABIP team did get a slight advantage over the Avoid K team. Similarly, I and Patience are starting at a higher point, so they could argue that they didn't get as much help as the other teams did. So one thing we could consider doing is redoing this where everyone gets like a percentage boost to their rating. All right, that team is done. All right, so I think we're not going to do, or we could do a channel point wager too on which team is going to score the most runs, but I'm not seeing anything in chat about that. So I think we'll just keep going and we'll just run the sim. It's another BABIP team. Because of the way I named them, I think they're going to come in pairs. So they'll all be right next to each other. Yeah, I've never actually fully gotten over having the cold. It got really bad again last week, so I missed a few streams, and I have been getting better, but yeah, I guess you can still hear it in my voice. Okay, that's NLP, or yeah. So now we go to Team I. There's only one I team. I'm showing a little bit of my anti-I bias. Look, I think on-base percentage is really important. I think I is really important for a good batter, good batting card. But when it comes to generating the most runs, I can only help you get people onto base. It's really, unless the bases are loaded, it's not going to help you drive runners in. And so because of that, and because of some of the ways in which the game does its calculations, I feel like I tends to be a little one of the less important ones from the purpose of this particular test. I do think when you're evaluating, let's say, a batter card in a perfect team, I think I is very important. And that's why I think context is important. So for this particular experiment, I feel like I tends to get a little bit of the short end of the stick. Similar with Gap, I think it's hard for Gap to generate extra runs the way some of the other teams can, because Gap is modifying base hits, and so it really kind of limits the added value that Gap can add. Now, of course, if we did this in a different era, I think Gap would have more relative value. I think part of the relative value comes from the fact that power would have lower relative value, and so then Gap would have relatively higher value. But again, the game engine seems to treat it as a thing that modifies a base hit, whereas power seems to be modeled as this is something that happens in addition to base hits. D-Block evaluates contact with 1.2 and I with 0.8. So D-Block, you're still sticking with contact? I like contact too, because of the way it kind of triangulates between Avoid K and BABIP, but the cards are shifting away from that. Yeah, I like contact too, I agree. But again, contextually, I think it's important to be able to disaggregate the contact and avoid K and BABIP. It's odd though. Like, I like contact, I don't like movement, but conceptually they're the same, right? They aggregate two other attributes, but I would never think to look at movement first and then look at, well, what's the avoid K, what's the HRA and PBABIP. But for some reason, for contact, I still like contact, and then I look at the subcomponents of it. All right, this is team power. So look, power has an advantage no matter what because of the way the game calculates power. All right, so power is going to increase the number of home runs. But those home runs are going to be additional base hits that are not accounted for in the contact or BABIP or avoid K calculations. And so power is the only one that gets that kind of double dip benefit. And so, oops, oh man, I lost, shoot, how far was I on that? Oh, I got up to corner outfield 2. All right. Speckle, thank you for scritches for crouton. Here you go, buddy. These are Speckle scritches. Yeah. Took off he was wearing a green vest most of today because it's St. Patrick's Day. I said, Crouton, it's getting warm. Aren't you going to be hot in that thing? He said, yeah, but I don't want to get pinched. I want to get pinched by the other dogs. Hey, congratulations, Speckle. Getting on the treadmill 2 days in a row. That's awesome. Nicely done. All right, let's look at... Okay, that's good. Everyone's updated. Also, NCAA tournament started today. It was a big day for me. I used to take off work for the NCAA tournament so I could watch all the games. Speckle, I always found that day 3 is the hardest day. So good luck tomorrow. All right, so I think all of our teams are set up. All right, here's power, gap. Oh, yeah, we don't even look at gap, so. There's probably a default batting rating one that has gap. Yeah, there it is. I was just using the creator roster batting view. And then there's an I team. Yep. BABIP 1, BABIP 2, avoid K 1, avoid K 2. Right, and this already tells you a little bit about how contact is calculated. Right, the avoid K rating is an 85, the contact is a 75. If I go to BABIP, the BABIP is 85, the contact is 80. Right, so contact you can see is a little more weighted towards BABIP. Yeah, D block. I know what you're saying. There's something that feels more connected about Avoid K and BABIP than HRA and PBABIP. I have a hard time articulating it myself, but in my mind, I would never look at movement, and I have no problem looking at HRA and PBABIP separately. But contact and Avoid K and BABIP, I still feel like contact is a good overview of the two, whereas movement is not as good as an overview of HRA and PBABIP. I guess they're probably more correlated with each other than PBABIP and HRA are. No, but that's not necessarily true either. I don't know. But I know I kind of know what you're saying, and I think it's what I've been struggling with too is how to explain it to people. But in general, I've also found that like BABIP and Avoid K are because they're individually not as strong as power. I found that making it a part of contact made it a little more on equal footing. Although they'll never be on equal footing because of the way it's calculated by the game. Uh, so twins, it did sound everything was pointing to a hard drive issue, but then a couple of people said, "Oh, one said it sounds like loose RAM, another said it sounds like a loose hard drive." So I just like jiggled some stuff. I opened up the computer, I jiggled some stuff, and then when I turned it back on, it worked fine. So I don't know what was going on with it, but it seems to be working okay now. Yeah, it was wild. All right, so what's the verdict? Do we want to do a non-pack giveaway form and have a little competition, or do you want to just watch the sim and see what happens? I'm fine with either one. All right, I'm not hearing any votes for guessing games, so we'll just go ahead and start the sim. Oh, actually, let me see where we're relative to the ad break. Yeah, kind of D block. No, you know what it is? It's kind of like tightening the coaxial cable connections. Oh, did we just go into an ad break? Yeah, I think we're in an ad break right now. Okay, so let me do a BRB real quick. I'll go refill my water and stuff. All right, looks like we're back from ad break. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize this. So the ad just happened naturally, but it was a shorter ad run because I didn't push. I usually push a 3 minute ad break. So we're gonna get ads again in 25 minutes. Normally, when I push a 3 minute ad break, we don't get ads for like over an hour. So I I may still push an ad break when we come to a good stopping point, so then we don't get interrupted. Yeah, D-Block, I couldn't stream last night because my computer was acting up. So concussive maintenance, that's good. I like that. Okay, so no pack giveaway form. Not, I keep saying pack giveaway form. Pack giveaways, by the way, are going to start on the 23rd, Monday the 23rd. That's also the week I was planning to do the player creation tests. So I don't have like a set pack giveaway form for that. So we're gonna have to come up with a good way to do the guessing game for that. But I think we can figure it out. It'll be fun. That's one where I'm going to create 8,000 players at every position level combination, and look, the data is on its face very helpful, and some of the conclusions are readily apparent. But I am hoping to get some help with, like, AW has volunteered. I know at one point Lisa Loves Biology had volunteered her husband to help with data visualization. There's just a lot of data that we generate, and there are very helpful insights in there. It's just because we're generating a bunch of data across a 2 by 2 matrix, right? Because it's position and level. But then within each intersection, we're generating data for, what does the distribution of power look like, and I, and it's hard to visualize that in a simple way. And so yeah, so I'm hoping to get some help with that after we generate the data. Another tricky one too is, like, I figured out how to use pivot tables to show what's the proportion of players that have, like, you know position flexibility, like an additional position or two additional positions or whatever. But to visualize that is a little bit harder. And so that there's a bunch of stuff like that we're going to be generating next week, but I think it'll be more helpful to more people if we can do the visualization a little bit better than I'm able to do. All right. Well, should I at least put like a channel point wager? You can guess what attribute is going to produce the most runs. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that's a good, I think, compromise. What is that under? Let's see. Is it under... Well, the channel points you can use to play community games. That's one of the things you can do. You can redeem them to play Creator Roster or other games. Where are wagers? Isn't there viewer rewards? No. Oh, no, they're right here. They're on the dashboard. It's not a poll, it's a prediction, right? I think it's a prediction. I think I start prediction to create a new one. Yes, okay. Name the prediction. void K, BABIP, gap, power, I. And we'll make it what? 10 minutes and 5 minutes submission? Let's make it 5 minutes. All right, you have 5 minutes. One of the things I need to do is we're going to make this a 5 times long season to iron out some of the impacts of RNG. No, we're going to start Create a Roster in OOTP27, so you're actually too early to play Create a Roster. Speckle, thank you for more scritches for Crouton. Hey, buddy, more Speckle scritches for you. Yeah. Hey, Speckle, where were you last night? I was first in Ophi's stream. You weren't there. You weren't there to beat me, and you weren't there to yell at me for getting first instead of you. All right, first we're going to save this as a quick start. This will be experiment in OOTP27, episode 618, bat max. One. That 550 times 1. So if you ever want to run this, we can come back and run this. Then I'll make a 5x season, and then I'll rename it times 5. So let's make this 5 times longer. So that's 810. And we'll ask for a new schedule. And then save this as a quick start. Times 5. Okay. So I think that's ready to go. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? The other thing I forgot to do on the base quick start, I forgot to regenerate the schedule after I reduced the number of teams in the league. So for this one, it's no problem because I did the 5x season and then regenerated the schedule. But on the regular 162 game schedule, I haven't regenerated the schedule. So that was the other thing I was supposed to do. Let me make a note to myself to do that. So a couple days into the completely average league, we're going to be up to quick start version 3 because I keep forgetting to make changes to the. But that's great. Like I had a couple of early changes I had to make to the creator roster quick start in 26, and we were up to version 2 after a couple days. But we ran version 2 the whole rest of the cycle because we had caught everything by then. So I think it'll be fine. All right, about half a minute left on the wager. I'm guessing bet channel points to guess which attribute is going to result in the most runs scored. All right, my alt is going to wager since there aren't a ton of wagers coming in. Oh, I don't know if I got my wager in on time. All right. The wagers are in. And we're going to be able to start this up, I think. Let's go to standings. And let's run the first year. We'll be seeing wins and losses, but again, that can obscure the runs actually being scored. So, but it should be a pretty decent indicator. Oh, we have to look at preseason predictions. Let's take a look at that. MLB reports and info preseason predictions. Okay, this says in the average league, power, then BABIP, then avoid K, then gap. And those wins do correlate with the runs scored. In the neutral league, it is power, BABIP, avoid K, and I. Although I is going to score more runs than gap. So this is pretty consistent with my prediction based on how previous versions of OOTP have worked. Let's open this also in the browser. There we go. Okay. All right, let's continue now with the year sim. Power leading in both. BABIP leading the second in the AL, third in the NL. All right, BABIP is now second in both. Nope, BABIP bumped down to third in the AL or the NL. Well, avoid K now second in both. Okay, now BABIP is second in the NL. Oh, I is now third in the NL. Gap has been nowhere near out of the cellar, though. All right, let's do another year. Well, so this is interesting. Avoid K actually coming in second, but if you look at the margins, it's one game out of 260-ish, right? So, and I actually keeping it very close with Avoid K and BABIP. Gap clearly a distant fifth out of all the attributes here. Yeah, Gap continues to fall behind. Avoid K and BABIP, a very tight competition between the two, closer than I would have thought. And that's with Avoid K getting in a little extra boost, right? Avoid K got like 11 or 12 extra points than BABIP did because their starting point was lower, but they're still trailing, which means, you know, it helps strengthen the case that BABIP is a little stronger than Avoid K, but not that much so. It would be interesting to run this again in a low strikeout environment like Dead Ball. The problem is then I'd have to recreate this whole league in Dead Ball, which is kind of annoying to do. Although, you know what? We could actually potentially import the Dead Ball settings into this league. Let's think about doing that as a future experiment. I think that could be an easier way to do it. Our regular season ends on August. Last time I did the end of the year again, I blew through the postseason, so we're gonna not do that this time. I have one more game to play. Why did it not give? Oh, because I don't own a team, so it didn't give us any achievements. That's right. Okay, so also interesting, I think, is no avoid K players are on the leaderboard for batting average, right? It's all BABIP guys. And the best pitcher should be the one on team power because they don't have to face the power hitters. So the ERA leaders, two of the three in the NL are power team power, and all three AL ERA leaders are team power. Now, some of the best strikeout pitchers should be the ones that are on Team Avoid K because they don't have to pitch against any Avoid K pitchers, batters, right? And so all three strikeout leaders are on Team Avoid K because they don't have to face any high Avoid K batters. And the same way the NL strikeout leaders are on Team Avoid K because they don't have to face any high Avoid K batters. The pitcher war leaders, again, from the same rationales earlier, they don't have to face the high power hitters. So the war leaders are all power, team power. Our war also team power, except one team avoid K got in there. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, the power hitters are generating the most runs. And you know, it's explainable by the way the game does its calculations. Right. So home runs are not part of BABIP because BABIP is batting average on balls in play. A home run is not considered in play. Right? It's never in play. A walk is not in play. A strikeout is not in play. So when you boost the power, right? They already have their 50 contact rating. When you boost the power, you're giving them. So the home run total is like. So these are 5x, right? So. Oh, they might have flipped they might have reset the total actually. Oh no, maybe we got it just in time. Yeah, because this will be the equivalent of about 47 home runs, 48 home runs. No, 45 home runs, which is a little low considering they have 550 power. But since no one else snuck in here, I don't think they reset the total. No, they must have. They must have. Because I would expect more like 60, 70 home runs. You know you know how we can tell is we can look at the team totals. Yeah, so they hit almost 3,000 home runs. The NL version did hit 31, 32 home runs. So what's going to happen is, like, you know, the I team, right? The I team and the gap team, they did not have their contact number changed at all. They hit 245 and 248. 250-ish is like league average. Well, how did the power hitters hit 302? It's because they hit almost 2,200 more home runs. And those are 2,200 extra hits that are not included in their contact calculation. So those extra home runs get added to the batting average that boosts their batting average. In the case of the average league, ahead of even the avoid K's batting average. In the neutral league, those home runs added enough batting average points that they, again, finish ahead of the avoid K team. Right, so these home runs are added on top of what they would normally do, but they're also extra base hits. Not extra base hits. There are additional base hits that are not accounted for in the contact, the avoid K, and the BABIP calculation. So power is the one attribute that gives that double dip, which is why I said at the beginning, power is going to win because of the way it's calculated. Right, so not only do you get 2,200 more home runs, those are 2,200 additional base hits not accounted for in the contact calculation. So they have almost as high batting average as the avoid K and the BABIP teams, plus they're getting 2,200 extra home runs. In the case of the neutral league, over 2,300 extra home runs. So if you can have the same batting average as another team, but then hit 4 times as many home runs, of course you're going to be better than them, right? So that's why I predicted in advance that the team power is going to win because of that quirk in the way OOTP calculates those numbers. Now, to me, what's interesting is that BABIP and avoid K were so close in runs scored. In both leagues, though, avoid K scored slightly fewer than BABIP. On a percentage basis, it's probably, you could maybe say it's noise, but when you consider it happened twice across, in this case, 1,620 games now, it starts to feel a little more statistically significant that maybe BABIP is a little more important than avoid K. And then I is fourth in terms of runs created, and then gap is by far last. And again, it's because of the way gap is calculated. Gap does a base hit that's already a base hit, then become an extra base hit. Right? So gap has, 15% more doubles than the other teams and about 10% more triples than the other teams, but because they didn't get the boost to avoid K or BABIP, they still have the original number of hits they would have had. And this is where maybe we should have a control team in here. But I is kind of the control team because I didn't have their BABIP avoid K increased. So Gap has the same number of hits as Team I, and they have more extra base hits, but that didn't help them score more runs. Right? I has the same number of base hits as Team Gap, but they generated, over twice as many walks, almost 150% more walks. And that led to them scoring almost 1,000 more runs than Team Gap. So even though their batting averages were the same, and Team Gap had higher slugging because they did have more doubles and triples, the on-base percentage of I led to a higher on-base OPS than Team Gap. And, like I said, 1,000 more runs, right? So 1,000 runs in this case is about 30% more runs, which is a lot. Right, so if I had to force rank it, it would be Power 1, BABIP and Avoid K, kind of tied, but with BABIP having a slight edge. And then run score, and then I. And then Gap. With Power having a big advantage over BABIP, Avoid K, and I. And Gap having a pretty significant disadvantage to BABIP, Avoid K, and I. Now, I do think these will change quite a bit when you switch to dead ball. Because Power is going to come way down. Because strikeouts are down, the value of Avoid K is going to come down. And in dead ball, frankly, BABIP might actually end up outdoing Power. Because that double counting benefit is going to be lost. And then what might be interesting would be if we can find in what era does that tipping point cancel out or even out between Power and BABIP. All right, looks like we're in ad break, so maybe I'll just stop talking for a second and we'll resume when the ads are over. All right, I think ads are over. Speckle, thank you for more switches for Crouton. Let me go ahead and deliver those. Now, the other thing that I still think is worth testing is doing the reverse of this, where we, instead of boosting the attribute for an entire team to near the maximum, is we nerf it down to like 50. And see which attribute hurts the most, right? Which attribute, when it's nerfed, reduces your run score the most. And I don't think it'll necessarily be symmetrical, right? Just because Power is the most important, I don't necessarily think reducing Power is going to hurt the most. It could, right? So if the ranking is actually for boosting is Power, BABIP, Avoid K, I, and then Gap, I don't necessarily think the run score, but when they're nerfed, is going to be Gap, I, Avoid K, BABIP, and Power. right? I don't necessarily think it'll be symmetrical. It could be. It could be though. But that's why I think that's a more interesting experiment because I don't necessarily know the outcome of that one. Now this one, what I could not have predicted, and it's a little bit of a surprise to me, is how close BABIP, Avoid K, and I are in runs scored. They're Avoid K and I almost identical runs scored, and in both cases, BABIP a little bit more than Avoid K. Would not have predicted that they are almost the three of those are almost identical in impact. Now again, you can't necessarily take these directly to Perfect Team because the game engine is different. They're based on the same engine, but it is different. Plus, they made some change this weekend to address the low batting averages and low BABIPs. And the other thing you have in play in Perfect Team is the card environment, right? I can't recreate that card environment in base game easily, and it's always changing. Right? So that's why we use the average league, because at least that's something we can control. So the way to look at these test results are, if everything else is equal, and you're in the 2025 run environment, then power, if you have the option to boot. Now, this is super helpful if you're in one of the online leagues. Right. If you have Doc Rocks, you can invest in your Red Rock League, and I don't know how the boosting works in EMLB or PBE. But if all things are equal, if you can boost your power as a batter, it's going to have the most impact on your team. If BABIP, Avoid K, and I are all can have about the same impact on your team, then whichever is least expensive to do, maybe do that one. And then Gap, I think clearly the least impactful. But if it's super cheap to boost Gap, then maybe it's worth doing it. But if all things are equal, then yeah, boost power first, right? Is kind of the takeaway here. But yeah, it is nice to learn though that the BABIP, Avoid K, I pretty similar impact, with BABIP slightly ahead. So yeah, I do think the nerfing version of this is the next experiment we do. I am now curious to try this if we can easily import the dead ball run environment, which we can do, right? There's a whole section here under game settings, league settings, historical. Here under stats and AI, you can change the historical year, and these other things will change, and you can change the years here too, right? And then these modifiers will change as well. So we could potentially do this in a 1907 setting. Which I don't know. I think I'd rather do the nerfing version first, and then we'll do the 1907 version. Because I don't doubt if we do the 1907 that BABIP will pull ahead of power. What I don't know is how they'll all relate to each other. Like, is BABIP going to be so far ahead in dead ball like power is in 2025? Nerd American prefers it when they nerd things instead of nerfing them. So yeah, so let's look at those. Those will be the next two experiments we'll do, and then we'll do pitching attributes. I think that's another one that people will be interested in. So short stream because I wasn't sure if my computer would be. Oh, let's do the wager. So power did win. So what is that payout going to look like? I don't think my alt was able to get in time with a wager on power. Smiley Face Jane bet power. So all those points are going to go to Smiley Face Jane. Congratulations, Smiley Face Jane. She would steal your points. Yeah, so this is a really good example of how we can use this completely average league. And I already kind of knew how this was. Now, I could have been surprised though. I was surprised at 26 because the gap between the gap. I keep using words like gap and that have other meanings. The difference between the runs created by power and the runs created by contact at the time we used contact had narrowed quite a bit, which led me to believe that something had changed in the way things were calculated. That double dip benefit wasn't as big in 26 as it had been in previous versions, and that BABIP was a little, or contact, especially contact via BABIP, was a little more important than it had been in the past. This time around, the surprise for me was again that BABIP, Void K, and I are all kind of in a logjam for second place. I do think there's because we did the 5x season, I do think there's enough here to say BABIP is slightly ahead of Avoid K and I. But Avoid K and I are very close to each other in terms of importance. But again, that's specific to 2025, and that's specific to base game. And it's specific to competing against completely average opponents. Would this look different if you're in Iron or in Diamond? Absolutely. And it's hard for me to reconstruct what that would look like in a base game experiment. But I think it's helpful still to know that in general, right, in modern run environment, BABIP, Void K, and I are kind of similar relative importance, and the gap is much less important, and power is way more important. And we'll try to find that out for pitching too, and we'll maybe try to recreate it for dead ball. Oh, and we'll look to see like what hurts the most when it's missing, because that's the other thing. When you play Iron and Bronze, right, you're missing things. When you're playing low ball, you're going to be looking to miss the most important things. I think those experiments, I think, will be very informative to people too. So we'll look forward to doing that. No Ophi tonight. I know she's traveling now. So I think we're just going to raid Midnight Sumo unless someone else is playing OTP right now. No other affiliates playing OTP. Is so Baffle's not doing his Bafflemania, right? I know it didn't happen on Saturday. He's doing a test run. And the other person I'd normally rate is Sarah Mahoney Music, but I think there's only 4 days of sumo left. So let's enjoy some live sumo while we can. Is Smiley Face Jane, I saw that, but wasn't she having problems streaming Balatro? Like the game wasn't coming through properly? Let me message her and see if that's still the case. All right, we'll see what she says. Yeah, if we can support Smiley Face Jane, that'd be great. But I know her Balatro stream was not working the way she wanted to last time. Okay, it looks like it's working. All right, yeah, we don't always have a chance to rate in a smiley face chain. So let's rate in a smiley face chain. We still have 3 more days of sumo after tonight. And it's not often that smiley face chain is streaming, so. Here's Midnight Sumo. If anyone wants to go see Sumo, you can go to Midnight Sumo. But we'll send the raid into Smiley Face Chain. If Baffle were doing the Baffle Mania rerun or second attempt, we would do that. But oh, Eddie Bao, yeah, I'm sorry, you just missed the end of our experiment where we took a completely average league and each team had all their batters boosted in one attribute, and we were looking at which teams scored the most runs, and it was the team that got boosted power. But we'll be doing variations on these experiments the rest of this week. So come back and check it out if you're interested in understanding how the OOTP base game engine works. And then we'll do pitching attributes as well. So we'll have that coming up too.
Why do you keep following me around?
Oh, Eddie Bao, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Yeah, the whole rest of this week, starting around 9:30, 10 p.m. Pacific time. I'm off tomorrow, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll be doing a bunch of experiments. Should be a fun time.